Have you ever heard of a forest being compared to broiler chicken? I have. I'll tell you the story. It happened in 2013. My wife, my son, and I, we were in Parambiculam Tiger Reserve. In Parambiculam town, I wanted a cup of tea, and this elderly tea seller called me into his shop. And he asked me, when I went in, he asked me what I do for a living. I said, I write on the environment. At that time, he pointed to the forest in front of him and said in Malayalam, I'm sure a lot of you are Malayalis, so you would understand it. He said in Malayalam, "Idu erchikozhiyana sare vettanam." In English, it meant, this is broiler chicken, it has to be cut. I was shocked. How could he even suggest that the trees in a tiger reserve, which is a national park and has the highest protection on land, should be cut? And how could he, as a local, say something like this? Then he told me his story. He had come from the plains of Ernakulam to Parambiculam as a construction labor to build the Parambiculam Dam. He had stayed on, his children grew in Parambiculam, he built a home, and then he became like a Parambiculam native. Other job that he did was as a laborer with the forest department, and he was planting the tea trees to which he was pointing and which have become the forest trees of Parambiculam today. Eureka moment for me. I realized the tea trees which I saw as the forest in Parambiculam Tiger Reserve was not necessarily the trees that nature planted there. Those trees were taken away long ago and slid down into the plains from top slip and turned into timber. These trees were planted decades ago so that they could be harvested decades later for timber. But then in the meanwhile, the forest laws changed and it forbade him from cutting those trees. Suddenly, actually, if you just go from you just trace the Chalakudi River and go down beyond the Parambiculam Dam, and then you will realize you go to the Chalakudi River, you see these forests which are rich evergreen forests and with lot of biodiversity. But these forests they are reserve forests. They have much lesser conservation status compared to the tiger reserve. As I was thinking about this, I also realized that many of the tiger reserves in the country are not necessarily standing on the best and most biodiverse forests in the country. These have the highest protection status because of the presence of the apex predator, the tiger. This story fascinated me. I am a storyteller. I have been working to tell environment stories for quite some time now with multiple assignments which paid me to practice my passion. Currently, I work with Mongabay-India, the Indian Bureau of the global digital platform Mongabay. I like the Parambiculam tea seller story because it was simple, yet it was very effective. It caused a paradigm shift in my understanding of environment. It gave me a aha moment. And don't we all like aha moments in life? I love listening to stories. I love telling them. I love garnishing my stories. Much fact, some fiction. My friend Deepika once said, Gopi, half of what you say is nonsense. But what I don't know is which half. Today, let me tell you, as a responsible media person, as an honorable media person, all that I'm telling you is true. The story of modern Indian environmental movement itself is built on stories. The first very important milestone in Indian environment movement, the Chipko movement, where peasant women of Garhwal hugged their trees to protect them from being cut for industrial use, was built on stories. The inspiration for that came from two stories of the past. The first one goes back to 1730, when the 363 men and women of Bishnoi community in Rajasthan died protecting the khejuri trees from being cut by the Maharaja of that time there. This is the same Bishnoi community which was in the news a couple of decades ago for protesting protesting against Salman Khan killing the deer. You know that story, don't you? So the second important environment story, Silent Valley, that also is built on multiple stories. So this was the story that about the Silent Valley. It happened this is the second most important story of Indian environment movement. This was in the late 1970s when people protested in Kerala, protested against the building of a dam here. That would have submerged this rainforest. Now, we all know that this decision went all the way to then Prime Minister Indira Gandhi, who then declared that the project should not happen, and she declared it as a national park. But what we do not know is the back story, the back photo story that made this possible. So among the people who were working to conserve this forest was a field ecologist by name Satish Chandran Nair. Satish had trekked all through the Silent Valley, and he had taken pictures of its biodiversity and turned them into slides. I think you guys have never seen slides, transparencies. It's my generation stuff, So turned them into slides, and he had a presentation ready. Those days, the Prime Minister had a senior official called N.D. Jayal, who was her support on anything to do with environment. So Satish got an appointment with Jayal, met him, and made this slide presentation which told the story of what would disappear if the dam project was to come. Jayal mentioned this to the Prime Minister, and Prime Minister took the decision. The rest is environment history. I have heard this story from the horse's mouth. When I was in my mid-20s, I was an assistant to N.D. Jayal at the Indian National Trust for Art and Cultural Heritage. This story of Silent Valley got me thinking. Whenever there's a project like this, and you have this going on nowadays, whenever there's a project like this, there are enough economists who will tell you about the benefits of that project. How much of power you would get, how much of industrialization happen, how much of cities would develop. But there's hardly anybody to tell the decision makers on what is the economic value of the biodiversity. The discipline of environmental economics works on computing the economic value of biological diversity and ecosystem services. At Mongabay-India, we decided to tell those stories that come from the research of environmental economists, and we do it through a series called Environomy. Stories build narratives. Narratives build public opinion. and public opinion forces public policy makers to act. I have been a storyteller for quite some time now, but all that I can do, or environment journalists like me can do, is not enough to make change. It requires a lot more work, and that work can come only if each one of you decides to tell environment stories. You can continue to do what you want to do. You could be engineers, but also do tell environment stories. Let me tell you the story of Rahul Ram. You guys know Rahul Ram, the lead singer and guitarist of Indian Ocean Band. Rahul is a storyteller. Rahul has a gig called Aisi Taisi Democracy, where he tells funny stories through music. Rahul and I go a long way. We met each other in Narmada Valley in the early 1990s. And we are of more or less the same age. So a couple of years ago, I interviewed Rahul in Mongabay-India. Rahul said, we have a lot of work to do to protect the environment. But you and I mean, he pointed to me and himself, you and I are getting old and would not be there for very long. It's for the younger generation to take on the responsibility. And, Rahul will continue to do what he's doing. He will continue to tell environment stories through music. I'll continue to tell environment stories through my journalism. But it's for you to take on the baton from us. The challenges that you guys are facing and will face in the coming years are far greater than the challenges that Rahul and I faced in our past 6 decades. And it's already happening. The seas around us are getting warm. The larger Indian Ocean ecosystem, is warmer than the other oceans. And within this, the Arabian Sea has gone above the cyclogenesis point. Cyclogenesis point is the temperature point beyond which cyclones can form. Now, just to explain that to you, you would understand. Some of you come from the East Coast, some of you come from the West Coast. Those who come from the West Coast, those of us who come from the West Coast, are aware of the southwest monsoon, which has where rain comes with in a cycle and regular rains, and it comes over a long period of time. Those of us from the East Coast know of rains coming. The East Coast gets a northeast monsoon, and rains come in sharp bursts over short periods of time. Now imagine if the southwest monsoon also started behaving like the northeast monsoon. And it is already happening. You guys know, in Bangalore, know what happens when rains come heavily for a couple of days. There's floods. And we keep getting these reports from different cities, and we are getting more of them from different cities now. But there's an impact of these extreme weather events on the national economy. We urban dwellers see it in the form of destroyed infrastructure, or disrupted marketing supply chains. That is, your Swiggy and Zomato doesn't reach home on time. What we do not see is the destruction it causes to the agriculture sector, which provides livelihood to millions of farm families. Agriculture gives 16% to the national economy, but it provides support to 50% now to sort of work on all this. What we need is good storytelling, and that is where you guys have an advantage that I could never dream of. In my college days, when I was like you, and if I had to do a story which I wanted to reach, I had to send it to newspapers, and I did that, and I'll send double type, send it double spaced, and send it, and it would come back after 1 week with a note saying that the editor, appreciates you giving this, but can't use it. But you guys have the entire media of the world. You have your own personal media in your hand. With your mobile phones, you can reach any message to any corner of the world. And this is something that we didn't have. Chennai showed the way in how social media could be used to deal with extreme weather events. Chennai in December 2015. So what happened is, starting from November, there were heavy rains, and by this first week of December, the city was flooded, submerged, paralyzed, and 400 people were dead. And the political administration was missing in action. Chennai then innovated by its own, and we had people doing multiple things through social media. We had an amateur meteorologist giving real-time, usable rainfall data. Perhaps you know him. He is Pradeep John, known as Tamil Nadu weatherman, giving real-time rainfall data, usable rainfall data. You had a group of digital map makers, consolidating crowd-sourced data on flooding on streets and then doing it on a map. You had a very famous radio jockey, RJ Balaji, who through his channel got calls for help and reached help there. So today, the young people across the world are telling environment stories through innovative ways. Greta Thunberg, Greta Thunberg participating in the climate change conference of parties and motivating all the other young people to participate and pressurize the negotiators to take early decisions is a story. Rapper Sophia Ashraf singing Kodaikanal Won't Step Down against a thermometer plant in Kodaikanal is another story. Radhesham Bishnoi, who recently lost his life in a car accident while chasing to stop poachers from poaching their animals, is the third story. You recognize the name Bishnoi, isn't it? You've heard it before. So there are certain rules that we journalists, environment journalists, have evolved, which can help you tell your environment stories better. And these are rules basically, spread light rather than heat. That is, spread more knowledge and information and not put your views on it. It gives only checked information. Do not exaggerate, because once you exaggerate, your credibility is lost and you do not have respect for your stories any longer. And four, find the linkages of environment stories to the society, to the economy, to politics, because that is how your listeners are relating to your environment stories. Stories that drive personal action, like we should not use plastics, etc. Personal action are important. But what you must understand is, for deeper environmental change to happen, personal stories are not enough. What you need is systemic change. And to bring this systemic change, environmental stories have to be told persistently and consistently. And this has to be told by many, many storytellers. When the powerful say stories, when the powerful say stories, their stories become powerful. I'll give you two examples. When Indira Gandhi, as the Prime Minister, talked about protecting wildlife, all the erstwhile royals turned into wildlife conservationists. Now the present Prime Minister, when he talks about renewable energy transition, we all follow his direction. But the most powerful stories are not told by the powerful. The most powerful stories are told by ordinary people like us, you and me, when we do our job properly, when we tell our stories effectively. If we don't tell our stories now, there may not be a tomorrow for us to tell the stories. The mic is in your hands, and if you tell your stories well, effectively, with passion, with conviction, you will ensure that the next generation will inherit a world which is still livable. Thank you very much.